to Ukraine, where officials are fighting in the Donbass, say there's fighting in the Donbass region, and the Russian private military company Wagner Group claims they have encircled Ukrainian forces and had captured the city of Soledar, but Russian officials have neither confirmed nor denied those reports. Ukrainian authorities rejected reports that the city had been captured, but acknowledged that there have been Russian advances.
So if Russia is successful in taking Soledar, this would be their first major victory in months. Joining us now to break it all down, former Undersecretary of Defense Robert Wilkie. Robert, always great to have you with us. Your thoughts on what's happening now in Soledar?
Well, your comments were on point. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that they're losing 500 people a day. They have not reported, and this is a town. It's not a city. And the Wagner Group has been throwing thousands of people, including convicts, into the fight. The trick to the Ukrainians is to not be caught up in that traditional Russian human grinder effect that they have used to good purpose throughout the last century. But the most important thing that's happening now, Katrina, is that the British have promised Challenger tanks, which are exponentially more powerful than any of the antiques the Russians are using. The Finns are sending their tanks, the Poles as well. So you're now beginning to see the European nations start to move to give the Ukrainians more capable weapons that they can use to great effect against really a Russian force that is so badly led and badly armed.
It does seem like things have changed from the beginning of this war. And at first, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't perceived as Russia against the U.S. or Russia against the West. But now, if the analysts are reading it right, it's pretty much Russia against Ukraine being supplied by the West. Right. So how does that dynamic play out when essentially we need to keep supplying them with arms for them to survive?
Well, the dynamic is actually an old American one. It goes back to the Truman Doctrine that we promise to support any country that is resisting either armed aggression or an armed minority within its borders. I think the West, Europe, has awakened to this new reality, and it took a long time for them to do that, that there is a threat on the borders, which is why you saw the Finns and the Swedes throw up hundreds of years of neutrality in order to join NATO. I also think that many thinkers in the West believe that a weakened Russia is to our great advantage. It also takes an arrow out of the quiver of China. If they were to ever move into places like Taiwan, they couldn't pull out the Russian card to tie Americans and Europeans down on the continent because the Russian conventional forces are no longer credible.
Robert, I do want to ask you about this. We're hearing reports that Ukrainian troops are now in Oklahoma, here in the United States, receiving Patriot missile training. How effective do you think these missiles will be on the war front? Also, I thought it was quite interesting that the Ukrainian soldiers are here. I assumed that someone would be training them there.
Well, it's much easier to bring people over and put them on the weapon systems at Fort Sill. My father was an artillery commander at Fort Sill. I'm very familiar with the capabilities that they have in Oklahoma. It's just like the British training their paratroopers at Fort Bragg. It's cheaper for them to bring them over here and use American airspace than it is in Britain. So that's not a problem. I think what we need to ensure is that the Ukrainians have everything they can use to carry out combined arms operations. That means the combination of infantry, armor, and air to go after the Russians. We know the Russians can't do that. They've been thoroughly outgeneraled. And I wrote a piece earlier in the week that they've been outgeneraled and outthought by a president whose profession was the comic stage. And that must be really grating to the KGB thug in Moscow.
And just to be clear, you're talking about the Ukrainian president.
Yes, Ukrainian.
All right. Secretary Robert Wilkie, really appreciate it. Thank you.
And Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year.